Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. I'm Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery. Look, if you have never listened to the postcast, hey, hi, welcome. You've never got to hear me talk about the lovely, amazing Streetside Brewery here in Cincinnati, Ohio, located over in the Columbia-Tusculum neighborhood, the East End neighborhood right on over there. It's an amazing location. I love going there to watch games, to just take in a nice, crisp, chill autumn evening in Cincinnati. Eventually we'll get some of those, I'm sure. The patio is lovely, though, this time of year. And the beer is incredible. Look, there is a reason why they have become a favorite brewery in this city. You can't find a bad beer on their menu. And I'll be honest with you, you can't find a style of beer that they don't have, that they don't brew. A jack of all trades brewery, which is awesome. This week, they've got Little Hill Pizza there as well, which is great food. And hey, we have a Wednesday game, so I'd be more than happy to tell you about all the lovely, amazing things going on this weekend. But I got to tell you about this one. Monday, September 16th from 6 to 8, a wood-burning coaster class over at Streetside. Really cool. This is the type of stuff that they do. They are a part of the community. If you're over there, go check them out. That's some neat stuff. Later on this weekend, though, of course, the Queen City Fulham contention will be out there, and they've got live music on Sunday evening as well from 7 to 10. So go out there, check it out. Streetside, good people. Hey, when you're there, tell them Cincy Postcast sent you. They'll take $1 off of each beer that you're drinking there. Again, mention the Post Cincy podcast when you're checking out with your bartender. Get a couple bucks off of your tab, and we all win. Okay, so huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring this episode and so many others. And thank you, dear listener, for supporting them, for supporting us. Well, and on this episode, what are we talking about? How dare you ask me? We are talking about Hell is Real. FC Cincinnati, nothing. Columbus Crew, nothing. How do we feel about this? Was this a good draw? Was this a bad draw? What are the vibes around this team now? What were the vibes like before the game versus where they are right now? Awesome game. Really good conversations about this one. You've never heard a more positive group of people talking about a draw. In part 2, it's a news roundup, news around the league, news around FC Cincinnati, news around Cincinnati. Sundance Film Festival to Cincinnati? Is this real? Is this real? Should you get excited? How should you feel when you hear news items like this? And then in part 3, it's Minnesota United. They are hosting our FC Cincinnati this week, Wednesday, 8:30, not 7:30, 8:30. We preview that one. We give you our predictions. You put it all together. You have a very positive Cincy Postcast. Joining me to talk about all of that and more, I am joined by two gentlemen who are so ready to celebrate a draw with me, joined by the Chief and joined just barely by Grayson. Grayson, I reached out to Jonah to replace you, and here you are.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
Not great. We'll get this out of the way. I'm not going to sound good on this episode. My voice is gone. I wish it was because I screamed so loud at the game last night. I'm not even in Cincinnati. I had not watched the game last night. I was going to watch it this morning. I did end up watching it this morning.
Okay,
just at a different time than I originally thought it would, because I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I literally couldn't breathe.
Oh,
Like I had to like open my mouth and like breathe through my mouth, and I was just like having a really hard time. So
I mean, the excitement of the hell is real hits us all at different times in different ways. I understand that.
yeah. So instead of going back to sleep, well, I really wanted to go back to sleep, but I thought, well, I'll put the game on and see how far I go. And I just watched the whole game, feeling like crap. And I thought it was really funny when Donald Trump got COVID. And now that I finally have had COVID, I think it's funnier. Because I have a good idea of like how he was feeling.
Hey man, he threw up the power fist. All right, he was doing just fine. Okay, after a couple of days in Walter Reed getting the best medicine known to man. even like going this long, it feels like I did something bad. Like I feel like I've screwed up in some way, and like I've like a moral failing.
No, you've only screwed up in this regard, and that's that if you didn't get the Rona during the pandemic, I feel like you missed out on a major life experience that we all shared. And now you're the person that's discovering the band after they broke up.
You're watching Star Wars in your 30s for the first time. Yeah.
I would like to. So I was going back through my week, and I think I pinpointed it. If anybody out there, I won't. Feel free to DM me or send this confidentially, because I don't want to. I'm not saying like put your personal health information on blast, but if anybody was at the Outlaw Music Festival on Wednesday and also got sick, I would like to know, because I would tell you that that was a crowd that would not have been COVID conscious, like if this was September 2020.
Right. I was going to say the Outlaw Music Festival just sounds like a super spreader event, just on its own right there.
But beyond that, I would like to say it wasn't a great venue for Bob. But Willie brought it. I really like seeing Willie, and Mellencamp was pretty good.
Yeah, I saw all of them at Farm Aid last year. The Cougs is a little curmudgeonly, but he's still a really good time.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
I'm also playing Under the Weather today, Kevin.
Okay. I hope yours is slightly more positive and less of a moral failing, but you tell me.
Oh, no, it's definitely a moral failing.
Okay,
I just
good.
was profoundly overserved last night after the match. At some point, someone should have told me that's enough. But the joy of watching a 0-0 victory, I just had to go out. 1 turned into 10, and that's just not a great place to be. And it's bad too when it's, we're recording this later on in the evening on Sunday. I still feel hungover. Not great. Not a drop of alcohol during the NFL slate of games, which made me want to drink at times watching them. But yeah, no, I sympathize with Grayson, because it hurts here too.
I spent the evening or the afternoon on a lake, kicking back, enjoying the nice breeze, the nice weather. I'm doing fine over here. So,
right, because everything feels better a little bit, though. I mean, even Grayson would probably have to admit this, is that having COVID sucks, but having COVID is just a little better with Hell is Real in the rearview mirror. And we can finally focus on the rest of our season.
Look, I've gotta start here, and there's plenty more to get to, but I want to immediately check in with the vibes. You two, at certain points in the recent past, a little negative about this team, a little fearful of this game in particular. Vibes check. How are we feeling right now? You feel better?
So here's what I'll say. I think if you were to go back and look at our public statements,
okay,
I think you'd find, an acknowledgement that the team was going to be thin for a little bit and was also going to be incorporating new pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So results were not going to be great. But if they got Lucho back and they were able to gel, they'd be in a good position going into the playoffs. And that's still that's still exactly where I am. I don't have a lot. I will say that last night's game, it does slightly change the vibe for me a little bit because, we did see Lucho go almost the full game, which was big to see, even if he didn't score or assist. Like just him going the full game was big. But also like that's the team Columbus is going to field in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the best version of Columbus. That's the best version of Columbus.
Yep. And, they failed to score on, I'm not saying they would do this every time, but they failed to score on a back line of Powell, Awaziem, and Yedlin. And, you'll have Robinson and Murphy available moving forward. Yep. And you also have Teenage Hadebi integrating into the team. And you'll have Lucho, I assume that even though he went the full game, like he's been basically off for a bit and he's still recovering from injury.
Yeah.
You could anticipate him picking up a few more steps. The course of the season. So like there's every reason to believe that moving forward, FC Cincinnati is only going to get better the rest of the year. Like this is the point of the season. Lucho's back, and you have your whole back line barring further suspensions. So you have to feel really confident that in a playoff match they'll be able to play with anybody and potentially beat anybody.
Yeah, I think that Grayson's mostly right in terms of where my feelings were on this club were coming out of Leagues Cup, and especially coming off of that Miami debacle where, this team, they needed to show something. Number one, they needed to show that Lucho was going to be healthy going forward. Well, we've seemed to have cleared that hurdle. We had reports late in the week last week that he was feeling pain-free and that whatever his ailments were that we never really learned about were behind him.
Yeah.
And then he showed that on Saturday by playing, I think, over 90 minutes. I think he was subbed off in extra time or close to extra time.
Yeah, with a couple minutes left, yeah.
For all intents and purposes, plays the full game, goes the full 90. Looks for the most part like he was passing the eyeball test as well. There were one or two moments that seemed like he might have put a foot the wrong way or gone into some contact hard and you held your breath a little bit, but you did that before he got hurt too. And that's just the way he plays a little bit. So getting him back is a vibe changer just in and of itself, because I think until they played this game, it was an open question for me as to whether or not we were going to see Lucho for 90 the remainder of the season, or until we learned what his ailment was this something that was going to last for the remainder of the season?
Yeah.
So hurdle cleared there. And I think that immediately improves the vibes. Otherwise, the whole word for this match was pragmatic, is that this was a pragmatic match from Pat Noonan and the staff where they were so desperately shorthanded at a single position group that they crafted their entire game plan around the idea of, we are going to play defensively. We are going to protect this position group on our back line. We are not going to allow them to get exposed. Mission accomplished. Now they're going to have, hopefully, their first choice lineup for the first time in forever in the next match. This is the point now where, for me, and I think this goes for Grayson as well, is that now it's time to see what you got going into the playoffs. And now it's time to get hot. Teams that win MLS Cup get hot right about now. So they've cleared through the problem portion of what they were going through. They've cleared through the rivalry game. They executed exceptionally well on the game plan that they had. let's see where we go from here.
And I have kind of two related questions, I guess, moving forward that hopefully we'll answer over the next few games.
Okay.
One is, what does the first choice back three look like? Not just the personnel, but also just how good are they?
Right.
Right. Like, does Teenage Hadabi surpass Ian Murphy or not? I don't really have a opinion about what I prefer. Like I said, when we signed Hadabi, I just think it's good that there's competition and depth in the back line. So yeah, how good is that back three? Because they're going to have to be really, really good for this team to make any noise in the playoffs, because I don't think this is a team that's going to win a lot of shootouts. And, we talked about after the end of the transfer window, not signing, like letting Bupenza go, which he had to go, but not replacing him with a high level player.
Yeah.
And you look at the forward room, and I think we feel pretty good about Kelsey for his role.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have like a lot of guys that I don't know that any of them shown that you can rely on them in Joaquini, Baird, Santos, Valenzuela. So yeah, I mean, again, like this team is, as it always has, is going to have to rely on Lucho to generate the offense primarily, and they don't have other difference makers in the attack except for Orishano, who typically plays at a wingback position.
Yeah.
And we've kind of learned over the last couple of weeks that Orishano is a force multiplier with Lucho. He on his own does not seem to have the ability to be a difference maker. He has looked his best and played his best when Lucho is available to work with. When Lucho hasn't been available or hasn't been at 100%, Orishano has disappeared in a lot of matches. He's a young player, but like, it's interesting how we had this conversation. Is Orishano worthy of a DP spot? With Lucho on the field, with the two of them, maybe. But just if you're looking at it from a simple standpoint of, does Orishano change games on his own? The results have been rather mixed, I would say, the last month and a half or so, as they've limped around and limped through Lucho's fitness issues. I think you're dead on the big question being, what does the start? I mean, I would even simplify it as, what does this team's best 11 look like? There was a wild tweet today that I think Carter Chapley had that says that this team has not fielded the same lineup twice this year. That's unbelievable.
I part of me thinks that's consecutive, but yeah.
Is it consecutive?
I don't know. It feels like it should be consecutive, but he didn't say consecutive.
It also would, like, thinking about it, it's like, it feels bananas, but also kind of intuitive, because they just they haven't decided what they want to be. And anytime they get close to deciding what they want to be, they have some injury or a card accumulation or a suspension, and all of a sudden they're back scrambling again. So I'm fascinated by, you have what, 7 games remaining in the season, 8 games remaining in the season? 6. Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. 6 games remaining in the season. It's a 6-game sprint to the playoffs, which they have now clinched by virtue of their result last night, which is awesome. But like, what does this team look like? What is the best 11 for this team? On the back line and up top, I think the midfield is pretty set, but is someone going to go out there and just cement their name up top and say, I'm the better option? Or is there going to be a clear-cut winner between Murphy and Hadabi for that third center back spot? They got 6 games to figure this out before they really start counting for real.
Yeah. No, this is a fun part of the game, of the season. So I do want to take a step back now, take a look at the game itself. I will say pre-game was a good environment at Northern Row. I always like that. I did. It's so funny. You can sort of get the sense of a crowd. You can always sort of tell. I don't know what sort of like weird biological trait you tap into. You can sort of get the sense of the collective psychology of a crowd. But you did get the sense everybody was a little tense. There's some nervous energy in the crowd. As one person put it, the vibes are fucked. So that was good. I really liked that. But on the march, this honestly, this got me more hyped than anything. On the march, I did not catch either of these gentlemen's name. There was a guy marching ahead of us in a NYCFC hat. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. So we run up and talk to him. Turns out he's from New York City. He has moved to Washington State. His father lives in Dallas, Texas, and they are huge MLS fans, and they love going to big MLS games. So they both flew to Cincinnati to experience Hell is Real as an event.
They were plants of some kind, right?
I don't know. I think
or content. Are they content creators? Like this
there
was a content creator move.
Or a camera in sight. They were soaking it all in. They were talking about how much they loved Findlay Market, that they were staying at a nice hotel downtown. They loved it.
Will you please direct them to whoever is making the decision for the Sundance Film Festival and just allow them to give a testimonial about their time in the Midwest, please?
We'll talk about that piece later. We got to hit on that later.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That's part 2 content, but yes. So that's how I knew things were looking good.
Vibes were good. I thought in the pregame there was a little bit of nervous energy. For the second straight home match, I did rip a shot of Malort. With fellow Knight, or not fellow, I've never drummed in my life, with Nick Kivy and Knight of the Bailey member. Tradition, we haven't lost one since it happens. I don't know if that also contributed to how I'm feeling right now, but I'm willing to make the sacrifice to continue.
Maybe I should try having a shot of Malort. Maybe that'll fix my issue.
That'll clear you up, yeah. One man's poison's another man's medicine. Let's go. So yeah, I thought that was great. I will say, I was handed one of the most offensive and vile things that has ever been handed to me in my life. Many people
for your tickets,
somehow worse. With the rise of Taylor Swift and Swiftyism, the friendship bracelet has made a hell of a comeback. And you see friendship bracelets not just at Taylor Swift concerts, but at all events these days. People seem to be using these. I was handed 2 friendship bracelets. They were blue and white in color scheme, and they had 2 phrases on them. The first one said promo code, and the second one said the post Cincy. Very real thing I was handed. Very offensive.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. That's, you know what? I think Taylor Swift did this solely so that we could have this for ourselves right here. That makes me happy. That makes me really, really happy.
No, honestly, Kristen Scott, thank you so much for those. That was very funny. As
we watch Grayson die in the background over here, like trying to get away from the microphone to sneeze.
Grayson did run away from the microphone here.
I appreciate that, so you didn't have to hear that. That's very wholesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was really, really nice.
I like that a lot.
I did take a picture of these. It's on my Twitter feed. I took a photo. I thought I was being very funny with this. I took a photo with the previously hyped Korean corn dog, which, by the way, best stadium food item I've ever put in my mouth. That was the greatest. But I took a photo of it, but I very, very slyly in the photo put the bracelets up there. So
I'm imagining Kevin walking around grabbing various items of stadium food and just putting them in his mouth and then putting them down.
Is this good? No, this is bad. Napkin holders, packets of ketchup.
Can I just get this item? I just need to take a picture for the content. You can have it back and sell it to somebody else. Just like some fucked Instagram creator that ends up in a viral story.
Go to people who just bought like a giant pretzel. Hey, can I get a picture just holding your pretzel for a second?
No, that would be a really funny bit, actually, to go around the stadium and be like, hey, I do a TikTok thing. I just take pictures with food. Do you mind if I just you mind if I just have your food for a picture, and then I'm gonna give it back to you in a second, and then you post the picture and take a giant bite out of it and then give it back to the person.
Thank you so much. That picture's gonna rule.
Thank you. Can I tag you? Can I tag you in this?
It's like the worst
Bro,
version,
this is gonna blow up.
Worst version of footy scran ever.
Just to see what people do.
Oh, that would be really funny. Like a $12 hot dog. Hey, man. But no, the Korean corn dog, unbelievable. And I don't know what's the matter with everybody that goes to FC Cincinnati games. The line was empty for the Korean food stand. And to my eye, the best food in the stadium. They had
that depresses me because I really wanted to get one, and I just assumed the line would be way too long to actually make it at halftime.
No. I saw the kimchi French fries that people have talked about before. They looked insane. Like I saw them before I saw one of the hot dogs, and I kind of regretted my decision until the hot dog came out. So I made the right decision. This is great.
Yeah, in terms of vibes pregame too. Let's talk about the sword pull from Manu Ledesma, because that was cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's cooler than when Hags pulled the sword at the Eastern Conference Final and threw the crutches down, but seeing my man back on the field, pulling the sword, kissing the badge, has his kids on the field, that was cool.
It was a great sword pull, and it's also like I was also like in my head like trying to rank it, and then it's just I don't know. It's like there's just it's like you can't like people say like you shouldn't like compare like art as if it's like a competition, right? Like
right.
It was a great sword pull. It hit different things than the other great sword pulls have. You could see, especially in the video the club put on Instagram, how much it, meant, to Ledesma to participate and get that reception from the crowd. And, I've complained about the USL history being occasionally, downgraded a bit or ignored, but the club does, I think, deserve a lot of credit for finding opportunities to bring guys like that back, bringing Jibby back to pull the sword.
Yeah.
I think it's like 5 USL players that have formal relationships with the team, at least.
Yeah.
And I think that's good to see. And I hope that they continue that.
Yeah, I would think so. And, it's funny, before the game, I was trying to like just sort of rack my brain and like, who would make sense to pull the sword here? Like, it's got to be a good one. You don't want to dud like the, I don't know, like the third division volleyball coach of a quasi local school or something. You're like, I don't know. This
or like
guy.
the host of the B105 morning show or something like that.
I'm sure they're great.
I'm sure
people.
is a lovely person. I have no idea who it is, but like
not hell is real material. Right.
No.
there are tiers to this. And when they announced Ledesma, I was like, oh, right.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world.
He's one of the few guys that lives up to this moment that's like not a uber celebrity of some kind.
And the video is cool. If you go on Instagram and check it out, like the video is worth a watch just because it was cool watching it on the field. But there's so many little details you miss that the video picks up. I love that he hesitates before stepping onto the field.
Yes,
because that's a moment for him, and that's like a sacred thing right there. Already crying, man's already tearing up as he's walking onto the field. And then just the kiss of the badge with the sword up in the air. Like the man loves this. Also, I think he looks good for 15 minutes. I think he can give you 15 minutes still. He still looks incredibly fit. And just has that like soccer player aura a little bit about him, where just a little like too clean looking, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He was really good at TST.
Yeah. He was like one of the best players at the tournament. Unfortunate that the team wasn't one of the best teams at the tournament, but he was one of the better players. Luck,
but yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that because Manu doesn't have really as big of like a personal history with Columbus. I mean, he played in the 2019 season.
Scored against them.
Against them. Those games, they weren't particularly memorable.
Yeah.
But he is somebody who has meaning to the fans.
Yeah.
And I think that matters.
Yeah. It's funny too, the impact he's had on this club, and he was only here for 2 years. And one of them was a really rough year. Won an MVP, surely that helps to make an impact there.
Scored a goal Lazo against Espanyol.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. His resume is insane. Like the list of clubs he's played for, the man has never found a team he could not play for, traveled the world playing the sport. It just awesome. Like so cool that he was able to do that. If you would have asked me, I would have been absolutely wrong on this. Did not win a title with the New York Cosmos. It looks like he just missed their title years. Looks like, yeah, damn. They were runner-ups in the soccer cup or the soccer bowl in the NASL. But yeah, one of the few remaining NASL Cosmos players floating around out there. I also love that Wikipedia still has him as a Las Vegas Lights player active. I'm going to go ahead and say the book is closed there.
forever a Lights superstar.
Made 2 appearances for Indy 11. I don't remember that.
Neat.
So that was awesome. And yeah, Chief, you're exactly right. Like, he's one of the guys that actually cares about this club, and that moment and that recognition meant something to him more than just the neatness of getting to pull the sword. Like, he really felt honored by that, and that was awesome as a fan. And it was really, really, really cool to see. Loved that. And then immediately afterwards, pretty good TIFO went up. The card stunt was successful. I believe that's the first card stunt we've seen for FC Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It was successful. I got to say, as somebody who's been a part of these planning processes, I didn't think it would ever go that well. So well done, everybody.
There is a sort of element of herding cats.
Yes.
As soon as you try to get the normies involved with anything, who are most of the time drunk the minute they walk into the stadium.
Yeah.
Job well done to everyone, because it seemed like that went off almost perfectly.
Yeah.
Looked great. Visual incredible. Job well done. And a special bottom of my heart fuck you to the one crew fan that was up in the mentions on the X app today, accusing us of using AI art to design that. Get bent directly.
Come on. What a great accusation, though, of TIFO, because any TIFO design, no matter how intricate, has to be dumbed down, not dumbed down, but like has to be simplified in some way to make it executable as a hand painted design. And so I feel like they kind of all will have that weird sort of AI veneer to them. So yeah, that's a pretty good like evergreen accusation you could make.
There are some with the AI TIFO allegation, people trying to say like Cincinnati is like an impossible to navigate city. Other folks saying that people in the Bailey look like juggalos, which like I'm not even sure that's an insult. It's like a pretty vibrant community.
Yeah.
who, as far as I can tell,
one way to describe it.
It's a vibrant community.
It's a vibrant community.
So there's Oakley and there's the gathering of the Juggalos.
Gathering of the Juggalos. There's a large amount of pro wrestling fans in both communities. I see the overlap here.
So, but I think that kind of tells you that, there was a thought coming into this game that they were going to wax us. Mm-hmm. And when that didn't happen, I think some of them are melting down a bit because they're seeing that, maybe, the season isn't going to be the season that they thought going into the game they were going to have.
Yeah.
The one part of the TIFO I do want to point out and applaud is that I am aware that this was designed and painted.
I already know exactly where you're going.
A month ago. Just job well done to the universe for allowing the stars to align enough for this TIFO to be deployed this week that depicts something trying to eat a cat.
A small defenseless cat under attack by another cat.
Right. Yeah. Which just feels like predator-prey relationship more than any sort of socio-political commentary. But, eating cats hasn't been this topical since Alf went off the air, and here we find ourselves.
Very timely.
But unlike this instance of eating cats in the news or potentially eating cats in the news, it's not going to get anybody killed.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Yeah. I think Kucha might have strangled an AR if nobody was watching, but thankfully there were 25,000 people keeping an eye on that. So that was lovely. Well done to everybody. Tons of little Easter eggs on there. If you zoom in, the CCC final written out on the roulette table, very funny. The 2-1 score line on the dice and the goal scorers numbers on the cards, I thought was really good. So
are the red cards supposed to be a sign of what's been thrown at us this year?
That's a good question. I noticed the red cards. I assumed they were sort of flames, but maybe they are. Maybe they are the number of card suspensions that this team has faced.
I respect that there's not. I respect that there's not an explainer out there.
Yes.
I think it's nice that people can look at stuff on their own. I do think that the aces, are the kind of, with that show 19 and 10, are the kind of thing that like people would be like, wow.
Yeah,
there's no 19 card. It's certainly not an ace, right?
Right.
It's but I think it came across loud and clear.
Yeah, it was good. It's got enough little references that you can find them and go, neat. Also, I think that's an original concept or original design. I could be totally wrong here, but I don't think it's a take on something or a sort of homage to a book cover or comic book or video game or something. So neat. Well done. If I'm wrong, I'm a moron. So there you go.
And then we kicked off and
yeah,
Kevin, I was nervous.
Sure.
We've already talked about it, but the back line in this match was Powell, Awazim, and Awazim and Yedlin on the right hand side.
Yep.
So only one natural center back playing. Your boy Kip Keller once again can't find him with a search warrant.
Relegated.
At what point does Alvis become a center back?
I think
like how often does he have to play center back before he's no longer playing out of position?
I think we need to have Yuya Kubo back on the show and ask, like, at what point do you consider yourself also this other position?
I mean, according to Kubo, never. He is a striker.
The rest of the lineup was interesting. Kevin, you got it up in front of you?
I do. Let me run through it here. Celentano in goal, obviously. Fatmob gave him the man of the match, which I think is fair. As you said, Powell, Hausium, Yedlin as your back line. Yuya Kubo as the left wing back with Luca Orishano as the right wing back. It was Buka and Wobodo in the defensive midfield role. And just to not split hairs, I will group them all three in an attacking trio. It was Joe Aquini, Lucho Acosta, Kevin Kelsey ahead of them as your nebulous forwards group. It was an interesting one. Yeah, obviously center backs is where your eyes are going to first. Well, right after you checked off that Acosta was starting, then you looked at center backs. Very interesting. Kubo on the left, Orishano on the right. Could have just as easily been the other way around on that one. And Joaquini Kelsey up top. Not Santos. Assad back and healthy and in training, but wasn't starting on the left. So that meant Kubo not up top potentially. There's a ton of different versions of how this could have gone, knowing now what we know and who was healthy and who wasn't healthy. But yeah, Grayson, thoughts upon seeing the lineup?
Well, I mean, I have my own, I guess, opinions about the inverted wingbacks. And we got into a little bit of discussion in the Discord about, how whether Luca has been more successful on the right or left. But I think it's pretty. It does seem that he has scored a lot more goals playing on the left wing back than playing on the right.
Yeah,
two of those are like midfield blasts, and one is a free kick, but. Nevertheless, I think with Chief talking about the pragmatism of the game plan, it kind of made more sense. But also, there were multiple times in the game, including like twice in the first 5 minutes, where they had, kind of promising attacks going on, but you had both of Luca and Kubo playing a ball into the box from out wide with their weak leg.
Yeah.
And
but that wasn't the point of this formation.
Right, I know.
And that wasn't the point of this lineup, I don't think.
No, I agree, but conversely, like, I didn't really see from an attacking standpoint other situations where they were like more dangerous cutting in that would have made up for what you're giving up out wide with those players. However, I agree with Chief. I don't think this was like an attacking decision. I think it was to be compact.
I agree. I think that like if you look at it from the point of view of what can we do to provide as much cover as possible to our backline, you want Luca playing in front of Yedlin, who is the superior defender, and a little more comfortable, I think, playing center back, even if he's not physically your first choice to play the position. And then having Yuya Kubo, who is the superior defender over Orishano, being there to cover for Powell, who is the weaker of the two. So you are making sure that Powell is covered properly in that space, I think. And with the inversion for both of the wingers, I think that more naturally lends itself to defending, because you're going to have your wingers, instead of getting them caught up the field as much, they're going to be in a position more frequently where they're not going to be caught in no man's land. Because the number one thing they were looking to avoid, I think, based on this formation and how they lined up, is they were saying, we are not going to get caught on the break. We are absolutely not going to get caught with line breaking passes and let the crew get us running and get into odd man rushes. And it was very successful at that for the most part.
Right. If Luca, for example, loses the ball in attack as an inverted winger, he's losing the ball most likely in a central location. And that's also where like Wobodo and Buka are playing. Right. Yep. So you have guys there to help prevent a quick break. But if Luka loses the ball out wide, then if he's playing on the left, let's say, then then the crew wingback or one of their midfielders has the ball. He's already passed Luka probably, and he'll have some space to exploit.
Yeah. And I would say overall, the speed of the back line was beneficial. I almost wonder if Columbus doesn't score if our quote unquote first choice center backs are in there, because Powell's speed helped bail them out on a couple of fast breaks. Yedlin's speed as well.
I'm not sure Yedlin's faster than Miles. And then we haven't seen Hadebe in the team yet, but
fair.
From what I understand, he's pretty fast himself. Powell is Powell and Sergio are like the fastest guys on the team.
Right. Yeah. And there were a couple of times where Powell was able to come back and disrupt play, which I thought was awesome. But Chief, to your point about, disrupting Columbus's play, that is what jumped out at me immediately. So I went to this game with my brother, who admittedly is just starting to get into the sport of soccer. He's jumping in with both feet, which I love. But I was explaining to him, like, Columbus is a possession-heavy team that loves stringing beautiful chains of passes together and slicing up teams, and has rolled teams all year. I mean, for 3 months, they were beating teams 4-0 and 5-1 and stuff. They went to LAFC and I think beat them 5-0 or 5-1.
5-1, I think.
Yeah, absolutely insane. And then in this game, they couldn't string more than a couple of passes together. And every time their center backs were on the ball, they were forced into long balls or passing it back to Schulte, who had to launch it. Like, the disruption of Columbus's game rattled them. It was something else.
And they lost their composure as this game went on.
Yeah.
Is that the possession was close to, it ended up being 50-50. The FCC outpossessed them in the first half. And by the middle of the second half, the numbers started to skew a little bit towards the back end of the second half when FCC started playing for the point. But later in this match, Cucho absolutely lost his mind.
Oh, yeah.
At one of the ARs, picked up a yellow card for just straight dissent over a non-call. Damn near picked up a second yellow.
He walked right up to that line. Yeah.
Like, if he would have been shown a second yellow, I don't think anyone would have been in a position to argue it. But they were frustrated out there, and you could see it with how the Columbus players were interacting with one another. You have to go all hashtag body language, but the body language from the crew in this match was awful, because it was like they haven't been punched in the mouth like this. And this was a physical effort from FC Cincinnati. Thankfully, the game was officiated in a way where there weren't a lot of cards being thrown out, and a lot of play was allowed to happen. It was almost like there was a memo that this is a rivalry game. You're going to have to let some stuff go.
Yeah.
So specifically, like Yuya Kubo playing defense, incredibly physical defense from Yuya. Giacchini, incredibly physical. Kelsey, incredibly physical. This was a very, very physical effort, and you could tell that it was getting to the crew.
Yeah. And even the cards that Cincy does pick up, just to skip ahead a little bit, Woboto's you could nitpick, but at the end of the day, he goes to ground behind the guy, and he does fall. So even if it was a dive and you want to say he tricked the ref, so be it. But you can see it. Awaziam's, that was just a classic professional foul. He needed to foul there. He needed to take out Cucho's legs, give up the free kick, because if not, he's one-on-one with Celentano. It's probably a goal.
I think this guy should ref this game like forever, because there were. I think some of the other refs we've had this year would have started giving out cards earlier in the game. I think wrongly, but there were just some of the fouls that, like, really us in the first half. I was like, I've seen these carded kind of repeatedly throughout the season. I don't like the cards coming, but some of these MLS refs are a bit card happy. Maybe just when it comes to us, maybe in general, but I thought the referee let the game be the game.
Yeah.
He called a lot of fouls on us, but we probably also fouled more.
Yeah.
Right.
Being physical. That was the game plan. And they, in a differently officiated match, a couple guys could have picked up early cards and that would have changed everything about how this game was going. And because they didn't give out the early cards, they could keep being aggressive on defense, which is why cards change games. You get a yellow card, it changes completely how you defend and how you approach your movement and your positioning for the rest of the match. How likely are you to go to ground? How likely are you to try and make a challenge on a ball? When you're not carrying a yellow card into the second half, you can play the kind of defense FC Cincinnati did, which is why it's just so infuriating when you see poor officiating that results in cards being given. I can deal with poor officiating that calls fouls incorrectly. It's when they give the card where it's like, okay, you are changing everything that happens as a result of this, even if it's only a yellow.
Yeah. Well, you're also changing the season given what feels like harsh accumulation rules. I don't know. Maybe I'm not following the Premier League close enough, but my impression is it doesn't seem to come up as quickly or as often in the Premier League as it feels like we have a guy missing every other game due to yellow card accumulation. So I don't know. Very frustrating on that one.
I think they just can't. They can't give cards out as I would say, freely as they often do with the accumulation rules, because it's like Noonan complaining about the ref that gave Miles the yellow card in the last game.
Yeah.
Do you know that he's on 4? Well, he was only on 4 because so many refs give soft cards.
Right. And they don't come off quick enough. I can understand, if you got 3 yellows in a row, in 3 games back to back to back, you should be suspended for the 4th. I can kind of see that. But outside of that, I don't know, man. Whatever these accumulation rules are, they seem wrong. I don't know. Yeah. I'm happy to read, look at that in the offseason or something, but that feels wrong. But in general, I thought this was fine. Plenty of calls in the moment that I was happy to scream and boo about or whatever. But I think on balance, it all turned out well. And just while we're talking about it, Acosta was very much offside. I felt like he was offside in the moment. As much fun as it was.
I'll still scream about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'll still yell. Yeah. I want to see a replay of that. It's the replay would have shown he was offside too, but I still want to see it.
Got the really sad FOTMOB notification of the score correction. So Acosta had fooled whoever was manually flipping over the score on FOTMOB. So that was good. And
Crew had their chances in this game.
Yeah. The first 10 minutes, especially.
There were a couple of really good opportunities they had where on a different night, maybe on a better pitch where the ball moves more cleanly, maybe 1 or 2 of those find the back of the net. But, that's how this works. We've had plenty of games like that where we've just barely missed or something has just barely gone awry or it's just been a foot too far on a pass in order for someone to get on the other end of it. So I'm not going to apologize for that. We were due a couple lucky breaks like that. Crew had 2 or 3 of them. Luckily for us, Roman was up to the task. When he wasn't up to the task, the ball went wide or didn't find the foot of the intended target. But it's the one nitpick I'll have about this is that you can say the Crew got unlucky to not to score in this game. Not a lot of chances going the other way for the FC. We kind of knew that was going to be the case in a match like this where they were going to have to focus so heavily on defending. I don't think there was more than 1 or 2 what I would even consider to be genuinely threatening moments for FC Cincinnati. Joe Aquini had one opportunity, kind of made a meal of it, where there were other options available for him to pass to that I think would have been in position for a goal. But it only stands out because it was the only thing.
Kelsey and Lucho both had takeaways or interceptions from Schulte at different points of the game where you really wanted to see something more. When you intercept a pass from the keeper, you really feel like that should automatically be a goal. Kelsey took his immediately, which was a good thought. He just barely misses. I think Schulte has it covered regardless, but I love the thought. I love the effort there. And then the one that Acosta takes, it's again, Acosta does not have a very good angle on it at all. Passes it to Kelsey. Kelsey really should have hit it with his right foot immediately. He lets it cross his body and kind of flubs the shot with his left foot. It immediately gets deflected. The defender's able to get back in place. That deflection is ultimately what pops up into the air, and Gioacchini and I'm gonna forget the center back's name. Was it Camacho that he then goes head to head with?
I think it was Camacho. Yeah.
Where in the moment,
the president,
and I'm far away, I thought it was a concussion issue. It really looked like he might have broke his nose on Camacho's head.
Pat Noonan described it as a laceration per Laurel Failer.
Which doesn't tell us anything, because that was what they described Matt Miazga's injury as originally. And it ended up being very much more severe than a laceration.
Broken leg. But yeah, that moment, I think it's remembered more for the collision and not the sort of flubbed, perfect golden opportunity that this team had. But again, it's that pressure. It was that, okay, you can play out of the back crew, but you're going to have to play against our full court press the whole time. Was awesome. Love to see that. Would have loved to have seen more opportunities there, or better taken opportunities. They did get a couple of opportunities from that. That's where Brenner thrived. It was a game where you kind of missed Brenner's pressing there. But on that note, and thinking about it, in particular, the targeting of Nagbe, I thought was really clever. They did not let Nagbe have a second on the ball and were more than happy to knock him over. It really felt like Noonan said, if you guys pick up a yellow, make it fouling Nagbe. That was good. That was because he is the one who hits the line breaking pass, the sick Michael Bradley-esque diagonal ball that Cucho, Ramirez, and Rossi are able to run onto. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was the pressing was really good, which is why I said that this was afterwards, even though he flubbed the biggest opportunity of the night. I think this was Gioacchini's best game that he's played for FC Cincinnati, primarily because of the work he did pressing. His defensive work, and also he and Kelsey were both tasked with being hold-up players to try and allow the back line and the midfield to compress down. They were the outlet that would hopefully allow everyone to move up and into the attack by holding the ball up. And there were multiple instances where both of them were just flat out muscled people to get and hold a ball to start an offensive sequence. Gioacchini had a fantastic bit of hold-up play where he single-handedly fought off two crew players to keep control of the ball, and it led to a shot attempt, that possession, where you are creating chances for your team when you are able to hold up play, when you are able to control the ball, and where you are able to maintain possession for your side.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the same time, Crew definitely had the better opportunities, or at least did a better job of executing on the opportunities that they had. And in those moments, one, in the 15th minute, Rossi misses. Maybe the ball is a little too far away. It really felt like it was Rossi's mistake and issue there to not bury it in the back of an empty net after that cross from Cucho. The commentary at the time seemed to put the blame on Cucho putting the ball a little far ahead of him. I didn't see it.
I'm writing that one off as offside in the build-up.
Okay, good. that was a rough one. I was like, oh God, are we going to be looking at that all night? But after that, Roman was up to the task on their best opportunities. They had one later. I forget who it was. It was one of the substitutes, though. Pings the ball off of his chest. It sort of redirects it with his chest, which is sort of an unusual move. You're not always expecting the ball at that level. And Roman was up to it and had an amazing save in the first half as well, the reaction saves. And there was another one as well on a corner or a free kick where Roman was able to dive out and punch the ball away at some distance, which is an area of criticism we and many other fans have noticed where Roman certainly hesitates or isn't as decisive enough when the cross comes in, when the ball is floating into the box. And it was a really good moment to see him sort of decide what to do in that moment and made the right decision there. So kudos to Roman.
I think it was Zawadzki that had the point blank shot on Roman where it was an instant reaction moment for him.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where I think XG is kind of bullshit, where it's like, it was a great shot, but it was right at Roman and he got his hands up, made the save. Roman played very, very well. I thought his distribution was a lot better than it had been in recent games. I didn't notice anything egregious, kicking the ball out of bounds or immediately conceding possession. The organization on the back line was strong. Yeah, I thought he and the entire defense acquitted themselves well. Across the back line. I include Orishano as part of that too, because I think Orishano defended very well. Even Lucho getting in on the defensive act. There was a play in the first half where I'm trying to remember what the setup for it was, but there was a quick turnover and Lucho goes on a dead sprint to cover a passing lane on, I think it was Cucho, or it was Cucho running down sort of the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So even Lucho was just, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we are not being caught out of position on this sort of stuff.
Oh, it was awesome.
It was cool.
Another thing that I noticed, especially early on, that they were doing. So it was the back three, as we described, with Powell, Awaziem, Yedlin from left to right. But in action or in practicality, it was Powell and Awaziem sliding over, Yedlin allowed to sort of operate as a wingback, and Orishano as like another wing back, sometimes more of a proper winger. And it really felt like that they were overloading that right side and targeting Arfston on the left side for Columbus. And it was working really well. Like there were times where Kubo was surrounded by like 40 yards of complete empty space in all directions, sort of shades of Justin Hoyt over there all by himself.
Always open.
It was really, I thought it was really interesting to see that, like, rotate again, and we'll just push everybody up the right side there, and it was working, and it was working quite a bit. They did not push down the left side nearly as much. A little bit. Powell certainly had his moments, but overall, it was really well done.
Interesting to me. As we get late into this game, the substitution patterns seem to indicate that FC and Pat Noonan were playing for a point in this game. The first sub that comes into the match is Sergio Santos.
Yeah.
Yamil Assad comes in next. Dado Valenzuela comes in. And then it's London Agadu. And then finally, Corey Baird is the last sub. What are we to make, or are there any conclusions we can draw over the fact that late in the game, to see out the match, Agadu is the first person off the bench and not Kip Keller? I
like to think that it's a little middle finger, human victory cigar-ish of like, we're going to let this guy make one of his, 3 appearances this year. in hell is real. You guys failed in your mission here.
The game was very much in doubt still. Like you're talking about it's a 0-0 draw and you're on the back foot defending for the most part there. I thought it was very interesting that number one, Hidabi did not come into this match.
And there was no plan to. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, Agedu coming in ahead of Keller and Keller not entering the match at all in a match like this. Interesting to me. And also, you got to feel bad for Corey Barrett a little bit that like he was touted as a bigger offseason acquisition. They paid over, I think they're paying over max TAM to have him here on this team, or max salary budget charge in order to have him on this team. And talking about getting in with 2 minutes remaining, 3 minutes remaining in the match, substitution patterns were interesting. I know that this was a short bench. I know there weren't a lot of great options on the bench for Noonan, but I found that interesting, and that's something to keep an eye on going forward, I guess. Although after this match, they're going to have a plethora of options at center back. So
yeah,
it's probably not going to matter, but I just thought that was interesting in this moment.
It could also be, I don't know.
This is your last chance I'm be able to get you into a game for the rest of the year.
Yeah, or just like maybe they're done with Keller and they just got to see what they have with Agedu before next year. Like Keller, I mean, at this point, barring suspensions, we're able to go 4 deep at center back now again, right? So that's good. Keller's your 5th choice center back. So it's sort of a fight between Agedu and Keller. And I mean, I don't think anybody, and I hate to count myself amongst them, I don't think anybody's going to argue that Keller is so locked on by his performance that Agedu doesn't have an argument for getting some run out. So I don't know.
And they're both behind, obviously, Powell and Yedlin.
Yeah,
yes.
Right. So yeah, we're talking about our 7th and 8th center backs. So yeah. Assad not starting, I thought was a little interesting, and maybe that's him coming back from injury. Because
I also think it's a nod to the idea that this was a defensive setup.
Yeah.
And Assad is a attacker. They have created it, that they have transformed into a wingback, but he is still primarily attack minded.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Not to look too far ahead. Maybe he starts on Wednesday though. Maybe they see Minnesota as a team they can try to rack some goals up against. Yeah, I overall though I liked the subs. I thought Santos for Kelsey was fair given the work Joe Aquini was doing. I also felt like Joe Aquini was dropping back more to sort of provide that attacking midfielder role so that Acosta didn't have to do everything. Like it would save Acosta a couple of sprints throughout the game by doing that role. So I could see keeping Joe Aquini in there. At the same time, I could have just as easily seen that sub going the other way. That Kelsey was doing very well, was attacking in the air, was, as we said, like intercepting balls in the back, pressing well. Maybe Santos and Kelsey would have worked well together. I could have gone either way on that one.
Either way, the Santos substitution made a lot of sense. Yeah. He's a home run hitter, and it only takes one opportunity for him to pay dividends coming onto the field. And you very much felt that if one side or the other was going to win last night, it was going to come on something fluky or something where someone misses an assignment or someone gets over the top and it leads to a 1v1. It didn't feel like either one of these teams was going to break the other one down.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. Like, we don't have like goals to go through as we normally do. There's the couple of cards, but like I said, like
no penalty shouts.
They made sense. No VAR controversies. Yeah.
Just a good old fashioned slugfest. It was a defensive struggle between two. I think that this flatters Cincinnati, but is accurate, between two very evenly matched teams last night, where, like Grayson said, one of the two of them is about to get significantly better in the coming days. If for no other reason, then they will not have to worry about having a leaky back line with 2 emergency out of position starters. So
Yeah.
yeah, as far as rivalry games go, kind of what you want out of a rivalry game.
Yeah.
Kind of tight, kind of nervous, a lot of body blows. No one hits the knockout punch. And for the year, the FC takes 4 of a possible 6 points. That's a technical knockout right there.
Yeah. Yeah. We won the regular season against the Columbus Crew. Look at us, huh? That's pretty good. If this was CCC, we would have advanced over them. So not too bad. The thing I did want to mention that I had forgotten, we talked about them losing their composure. Can't not mention this. Wilfred Nancy losing his composure on the end line, the bench picking up a yellow card in this one. And there was a moment where I think it was a player and 2 of their coaches surrounding the 4th official, screaming at him, where shocked we didn't get more from that. Really felt like if Noonan yelling at a referee is worthy of a red card and stepping out of his technical areas a red card, surely surrounding the referee and berating him is
I think
a bench
we need to be the podcast that calls on MLS to seriously investigate what the hell is going on in the Columbus Crew technical staff. You have a manager that appears to be out of control, where he's picking up cards on the field. He is being openly critical of the league and league roster rules in press conferences, denigrating the commissioner's office and the people that make these rules, claiming that they were being targeted unfairly and denied exemptions. I just think at this point that maybe someone needs to look a little further into the managerial staff there and see if suspensions are warranted based on persistent infringement.
Yeah. Lack of institutional control is an expression that comes to mind watching what's happening in Columbus. Yeah.
That you say lack of institutional control in Columbus, and a lot of buttholes get tight in Big Ten country.
Look, everything that was illegal is legal now, so I think we're all good.
Yeah. Wilfred Nancy has been found guilty of these violations, and as a result, Ohio State has lost 10 scholarships and will have to forfeit all bowl results from the last 5 years.
Right. God, that actually would be... That'd be the one way you could rile up Columbus to caring about the Crew, is if that would be an actual really funny man on the street interview. Is you just go to people in Columbus. What would you rather see? The Crew have to forfeit their MLS Cup, or Ohio State has to forfeit its last national title? Right. Or hell, it's Crew gives up their last title, or the Buckeyes have to give up like a Big Ten championship, like
in volleyball.
Right. I don't know. Oh God. Is there, I mean, God, I hate to do this, but is there anything else about this game? I mean, solid victory. Looking at it big picture, it kept them below us in the table. They still have a game in hand, but we maintained a 2-point lead on them, so that is great to see. We are still 10 points behind Inter Miami. Messi started lose again. Yeah, Messi started and scored 2 goals in the first 25 minutes on that one. So
yeah. I will say Bailey sounded great, and Columbus Crew traveling contingent, couldn't hear him.
Not what it used to be, I'll tell you that much.
No.
It used to be an intimidating, not intimidating, but like a very good showing for an away section. They would always be very loud, but not this go.
Felt normal.
Yeah,
just like there was a big contingent from Charlotte a couple weeks ago. They sounded louder than those Columbus fans were.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that.
Grayson has now up to 2 pieces of Kleenex, 1 in each nostril right now.
I'm dragging this section out because I think we might lose Grayson after it.
Yeah, I think Grayson is cashing.
I'm sticking around.
He's going to play through. He's going to play through, folks.
I got to talk about Sundance.
Yeah.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. They did what they had to do. They did what they had to do to survive this. They passed this test. The next test comes Wednesday. And until Kevin mentioned we had a game Wednesday, I was unaware that there was a midweek game. The next stage is Lucho played 90.
Yeah.
Now that we need to see Lucho being Lucho again and doing his Superman thing.
Yeah.
And if he can get back to doing that, because he played 90, but it was a quiet 90 for Lucho. There weren't any moments of Lucho-ness that were going on. There was no points where he felt like he was doing something dynamic. You can understand that, given that this is the first sustained action he's seen in a while, and he wasn't looking great when he was playing before, doing those little short stints while he was hurt.
Yeah.
The next step is seeing him look dynamic, I think.
Yeah. What percent of Lucho do you think we saw? Was this 80% Lucho? Was this 90% Lucho? How far away are we from 100% Lucho, which is league MVP Lucho?
I think that we saw, for the past couple weeks, we have seen 45% Lucho for 50% of the game. And in this one, we saw 75-80% Lucho for 100% of the game. So if you take the 45% Lucho for 50% of the game, that really only means you were getting 22.5% Lucho for each individual FC Cincinnati match. But now, if you take the 75% or 80% of 100%, that's still 80%. Which means that he is 58% better than he was before, with still 20%
than I thought I was getting.
With still 20% more. See, Kevin, the numbers don't lie.
Oh, God.
They spell disaster for the rest of MLS when Lucho comes back.
There it is. There it is. If he gets 50% better every game leading up to the playoffs, it will be at 16,000% by MLS Cup final. The league isn't ready for this.
I'm a highly educated individual, and I had to break that down for y'all.
Oh, God. Fireworks after the game for clinching the playoffs, I thought was very funny after a draw.
I just thought they were just shooting fireworks off because hell is real. I didn't know that they had some sort of meaning to them.
I mean,
cool.
I hope they wouldn't have done it if we had lost 3-0. That would have been embarrassing.
Yeah.
Or maybe we would have gotten more if we won, and that was a draw's worth of fireworks. I don't know.
Right. They still have more to set out,
Would they have set off the fireworks if we had clenched the playoffs last week? Just a completely empty TQL stadium suddenly has a fireworks display.
Well, the good news is that we clinched. We can feel good about this. And now the rest of the season doesn't even matter, folks.
Right.
I'm here to tell you it does.
Doesn't even matter. Okay, let's leave Hell is Real there. Hopefully, dare I say, hopefully the last one of the year. There's always the potential for one more. We'll head on over to part 2. We have a couple of Patreon questions, a couple of news items to touch on, soccer and non-soccer related, and then part 3. There is a Wednesday game that we will have to preview before we get out of here. So let's head on over to part 2. Before we head on over to that next part of the episode, I do want to tell you about our friends over at Cincy Shirts, our dear, dear friends here at the Postcast. Believe it or not, our very first sponsor from way, way back when. And guess what? Not only are they good friends of ours, not only have they been doing FC Cincinnati gear from USL year 1, but these guys are also doing Postcast merch. That is right. We have designs up on the website right now. Search Cincy Postcast. You can find our gear on Cincy Shirts. There's also links in the description of this show. But if you don't like our stuff, and you know what? If you don't tell me about it, but that's fine. Okay. You can buy anything else off of the Cincy Shirts website or in store using promo code ThePostCincy. All one word, all caps. That will knock 10% off of your entire order. That works on Cincy Postcast shirts themselves. And you can check them out in person. They are in Oakley Hyde Park. They are in Fort Mitchell, and they are also in Loveland. You can print any shirt on demand. I know that from experience. I've been able to do it. Walk in there, ask them to make a design, any size shirt, any design. It's really, really cool setup to do it in person there in any of their 3 locations. So again, a huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring this episode. And thank you, dear listener, for using that promo code. Again, the Post Cincy, all one word, all caps, 10% off your next order. All right, back to the episode. All right, part 2, a couple of news items to get to. I know Grayson is excited to talk about Sundance, but I do want to mention 2 free agent signings happened right at the death of the free agent signing window. One of them was Carlos Vela to LAFC. Kind of funny that he held out for 8-9 months to ultimately end up right where he started. San Jose was trying to make him a very highly paid player. He did not go for it, I assume. Nobody else around the world was willing to pay him what he wanted. But the other one, and the one I do want to touch on here in particular, Junior Moreno signs with the Houston Dynamo.
It's a reunion with Ben Olsen, right? He played for Ben Olsen in DC.
He did. With Yamil Assad and Lucho, I believe, all played on the same team at least 1 year together. I'm assuming FC Cincinnati reached out. I assume there was a conversation there, but given where FC Cincinnati's midfield depth is, given that he knows the team and the system and the coaching staff and the city, it really felt like a no-brainer to sign Junior Moreno, assuming we had a spot somewhere for him, and we didn't. Yeah. I don't know.
It's funny that we took teenage Hidabi, who was most recently of the Houston Dynamo and who was available, and they took Junior Moreno, most recently of the FC, who was suddenly available.
Can we trade him?
It's kind of like if you were to ask yourself, all right, would you trade Junior Moreno for a center back depth?
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know that they reached out to him. Maybe it's one of those things where we parted. We need to look forward, not look back. We're very okay with the guys we have in the building. Maybe he didn't want to look backwards as well.
Yeah.
And he would be coming to a very different situation. Coming to FC Cincinnati now, he was a locked-on starter while he was here. Now, I don't know that he would find many minutes over Pavel Buka.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have someone that could spell Buka for a couple of matches. I'm worried about the wheels falling off on him as we get further into the season. Hopefully, when the playoff situation sort of coalesces a little bit, they'll have the ability to start rotating and managing minutes when they are sort of locked into wherever their playoff seating is. I do want to correct you from the first segment, though, Kevin.
Ooh, please.
The possibility exists for 3 more Hell is Reals, theoretically.
Oh, God, I don't like that at all. I suppose in theory, Crew could be caught by, is it New York Red Bulls? I think they'd have to be caught by Red Bulls and Orlando. I think we have successfully dodged them in the first round, but I suppose anything is possible.
Yeah. Anything is possible. Oh, this is MLS. It's the dumbest league on the planet.
We did just clinch, so I guess we could lose out and finish as a 7th seed. So
yeah.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, I don't know. I just I don't know what, I guess it's Kubo, right? After Buka and Wobodo. So I guess that's good enough.
And I still haven't changed my opinion that he should be the starting striker on this team. Last night certainly provided absolutely no evidence to the contrary that he should not be starting alongside Kevin Kelsey.
Yeah, and you think too that Kubo could do whatever Joe Aquini has offered or can offer, right? So
yeah,
it's not like Joe Aquini's offering something that Kubo can't in that role. So yeah, I see it. I don't know. I think that does it for soccer news. Was there anything else? Did anybody else have anything there? I felt like we had to touch on
Carlos Vela re-signed with LAFC.
Yeah.
Oh, did you say that?
I mentioned that very, very quickly at the beginning.
I was zoning out, trying to have energy to.
I mean, in the back of my mind, I thought he'd be super cool if we could somehow pull it off. I just assumed he wanted DP wages, and we didn't really have a spot for that.
We did.
Oh, damn, we did.
We did.
I also question
if you could bring in Carlos Vela on a DP deal that just lasts till January
instead of Joe Aquini. Yeah, I'd take that.
Yeah, I'd take that too.
I know nothing of Carlos Vela's fitness levels. I know a lot of folks in the LAFC orbit were critical of Vela's fitness last year, and I assume he's not in game shape after taking almost an entire year off. But yeah.
I mean, you do it. It's Carlos Vela. I assume he's just going to be electric, and they had to do something in LA. They just lost El Tráfico, and the Galaxy are probably the better team this year, I would say overall.
I'd say Galaxy are your favorites to make MLS Cup out of the West right now, and it's not all that close. LAFC looked bad, especially in the second half of that one.
Lionel Messi scored 2 goals. Yay.
Yeah.
That's fun. Just add him back to a team that's running away with Supporters Shield.
Yeah.
That's neat.
A point we've made before, but without Messi, this Miami team is probably the best MLS team of all time. And then you get to add Messi to it. So that's fun. You love that. You love that that's happening when we're really good, right? It's a shame that this is happening and Crew happened last year when we're really good finally.
Yeah. Only other news that I picked up on and that I think is just worth a mention is that we did finally get an update on the Lucho Acosta citizenship saga, where Lucho indicated in his media availability that he believes that the process is nearing the finish line and that they thinks that there's something should be done. He was saying around January of this upcoming year. And you combine that with some comments made by brand new U.S. men's national team manager Mauricio Pochettino. I wouldn't bet against Lucho getting an immediate call up to the U.S. men's national team as soon as he's available and has sworn in and taken his oath to these United States of America.
I don't know. Let's go ahead and say Lucho Acosta doesn't have the talent to be in the starting lineup of the U.S. men's national team. I'll disagree with it, but let's just go ahead and take it on that face value. In terms of shaking up the culture of the locker room, I can't think of a better guy than a MLS veteran, a guy who would be so incredibly appreciative of the opportunity, a guy that has the U.S. Capitol building tattooed on his goddamn neck. That's the guy you want. The guy who beat the shit out of a chair having to get subbed out with 3 minutes left of Hell is Real. That's the guy you want on the national team representing and trying your ass off against New Zealand.
Wait, I didn't see that. Did he flip out when he got subbed off?
Oh, yeah. Okay. He had to be surrounded by the coaching staff and it needed to be cooled down. It was not good. He was furious about it.
I like that he still feels like he had those 3 minutes left in the tank. I like that.
Yeah, no, that alone sold me on him being fully match fit. That was great. He sort of threw the captain's armband at Woboto as well. Woboto wasn't ready for it and it bounced off of him. He was so pissed. He was coming off. But yeah, that's exactly the kind of guy you need in this U.S. men's national team. Not a guy who's pretty happy to be sitting on the bench of a Bundesliga team that's not competing for a single trophy. You want a guy who is trying his ass off, who an entire MLS team and city depends on for their own mental well-being. That's who I want. So, yes.
So just if you're listening, put a pin in this and just remind us when we all lose our mind next summer as he's called up for otherwise meaningless action in the summer window. Just remind all of us this is what we asked for.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It was like, cool, Miles Robinson's in the Olympics, and I'm like, fuck that, fuck this,
Fuck Miles Robinson's in the Olympics.
Never liked the Olympics. This is dumb.
Never rated him. Grayson's dying. Should we get to the other big bit of news just adjacent to the FC, to the Cincinnati community? Grayson, you want to take the lead on this?
Yeah. So the news came down this week that Cincinnati is one of 3 finalists to acquire a, I guess, 10-year agreement to host the Sundance Film Festival. I think it would start in 27.
Okay.
So the Sundance Film Festival, it's one of the kind of major film festivals in the country. It wasn't started by Robert Redford, but I think it was started by like people he was in business with, and obviously he's got that, Sundance resort over in Utah. When this came across the wire a while ago that Cincinnati was in the running, and my assumption was always that they were just having a beauty contest to extract concessions from Park City, Salt Lake, and that it was just going to stay in Park City, Salt Lake.
Yeah.
So now with the news this week that Cincinnati is one of 3 finalists with Park City, Salt Lake, and Boulder, Colorado, I have it on people who would know think that it's real. That Cincinnati has a really real chance of getting the festival. There's a lot of info out there about what costs would look like, and I think there's obvious questions about what venues, I guess, have been like offered to like host events and host screenings and things. But my understanding is that this I feel pretty good about is that they're not thrilled with the setup in Park City, that they're using multiple sites that are 30 plus minute drives from each other, if not more, and they've outgrown Park City, and it's not like you can just make more Park City.
Right.
So I've kind of been told that, and this could be wrong, but I've kind of been told that it really is down to like us and Boulder. So I don't know. I think it's exciting to get to pitch for stuff like this for the city. It would be an incredible thing to get. I think Cincinnati would be a really good host city for a music festival of some kind. I know there's like a couple of smaller ones that they do here and there, but I mean, like, I think that Cincinnati would be a great host for a real music film festival.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad, whoever is running this, I'm really impressed that they've pushed it this far. The timing I'm hearing is they're going to pick the city in October, which is also the timing that we're hearing, I think, with NWSL expansion.
Oh boy.
So you could have a couple of big announcements in October, or a couple of, disappointments as well, I guess. But I'm excited. I think that we kind of kicked around doing like a regular, at least until there's an announcement, doing like a regular Sundance feature,
Sundance update
on the podcast. And
all right, so hold on one second.
Go ahead.
Help me out with this idea first, because I want to know if you guys have the same take that I do here, or help me figure out how to get beyond my Neanderthal take.
All right.
All right. Lived in this city for a really long time. Not originally from here, came here when I was very little. I was born in Florida and Tampa, came here when I was about ready to start kindergarten. So all intents and purposes, lived in Cincinnati for the overwhelming majority of my life. I have this weird reaction whenever news like this happens that, oh, come on, Cincinnati, really? Help me break this. How do I get over this idea? Because that was my first reaction to this. And then I was like, no, I'm going to check myself here a little bit. This is awesome. We deserve nice things too. This city is not as lame as it is in the picture of my head of Cincinnati. How do I get past this?
I mean, I don't think anybody would have thought of Cincinnati as top of the list for Major League Soccer expansion in 2017, 2018, 2015, before it happened. And you had some ambitious folks in the city who decided to make it happen. And they've done other ambitious stuff like getting US Mexico here, potentially getting the NWSL team here if that ends up happening. So I think it's easy, and this, like I said, this was my initial reaction too. I think it's easy to kind of assume that things won't happen because it's low stakes and
Right.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, most things that are possible don't happen. So there's no
Deep.
there's no cost to being, I guess, right. And you haven't. But if on the other hand, if you get your hopes up, you have the cost of being wrong, of disappointment. And I think the people that do things in Cincinnati, like, get the new convention center going, get the MLS team here, other stuff that, making the tennis tournament stay.
Yeah.
With a real long-term lease. I mean, these are people who decided that, they would try for big things, and, they pulled it off.
And then we get, as a result, the tweet of, I love how in major tennis, the biggest tournaments are New York, Paris, London, so New York, Paris, Wimbledon, Cincinnati.
Yeah, you can never give that up.
Mason. Right.
Kings Island.
Right.
Yeah, this would be really cool. Sundance it's a, you just say the word, it's the first thing that you think about this festival and all like the incredible movies and the cultural impact and the cultural relevancy that has. It'd be awesome. Like, that would be neat because like they kept the tennis tournament where they played defense on that. And this would be one of the first things, other than FC Cincinnati, which I know not to say other than just FC Cincinnati, which has just been amazing and a part of all of our lives now as we sit and record our 202nd episode of this dumb show. This would be going on offense. This would be claiming something that belonged to someone else or that was from someplace else. And we got it for our city. I think that it's a good topic for this show just because it's like, what is FC Cincinnati, if not a sort of an example of what this city and what this population, this community can be if it decides, yeah, we'd kind of like to do this. And if they all put your collective will towards it.
Yeah.
We jumped the line in MLS expansion. No one, like Grayson's right, no one thought that was going to happen in 2015. Now there's this. This is all more evidence they need to restart the subway. We need to restart the Cincinnati subway. It should be that the Sundance Film Festival, the various venues are connected by the brand new Cincinnati subway. Let's fuck a 10-year agreement. Let's get a 20-year agreement, and let's commit by year 10 that the subway is up and running, and you can take the subway to each one of these different spots where you're watching movies at.
I'm glad you bring up the different spots you can watch the movies at. Are we the only city without a movie theater downtown? Like, you can't watch a movie.
You get the AMC at Newport on the Levee.
But that's, first off, not Cincinnati, and second off,
First off, how dare you?
I mean, yes, and the Esquires in Clifton, but that is decidedly uptown. But it is just funny. Like, it's going to be a lot of like the Aeronoff and Music Hall or whatever.
Well, I mean, I hate to burst your bubble. They're not showing films at Sundance like an AMC locally. That's not how.
Agreed. But there isn't even an Esquire or Marymount Square or whatever. There is the Imperial Theater not far away.
Which is about to skyrocket in value if this deal gets signed.
Yeah, it could be the crown jewel of the festival.
I told the owner of Northern Row, I was like, you need to get on buying that just in case. Like a combination brewery movie theater, that would be legit. You got 20th Century in Oakley. That's fun.
That's true. So there's some options. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought that was funny. It's like, it's going to be a lot of theaters in the play sense, the stage sense, than the movie sense.
It'd be fun. It would be cool. Hollywood elites descending on Cincinnati, Ohio.
I mean, we already have Emilio and George Clooney. Okay, we're good.
Right. Like what we need to return to the 90s media scene in Cincinnati, where if you spend any appreciable amount of time here, they claim you as a Cincinnatian. Like, well, they stayed in a residence inn for 2 months here once. They kind of are Cincinnatians.
Yeah, it was funny, like seeing Joey Votto like talk about his hometown of Toronto. I was like a little offended. It's like, no, you're Cincinnati
you're ours.
now.
You're ours. We claim you, damn it.
You don't get to have another city anymore. That's not how this works.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
And I look forward to, I mean, if only there was a multi-million-dollar development happening mixed use development happening right by a certain TQL stadium that they might want to include a venue that could possibly show films like this, if only.
Might not be a bad idea. Lagering Tunnel Theater? Who says no?
Dude, that'd be sick, actually.
You could
underground movie theater.
You could have fun with that.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up part 2 here because goddamn, we have a match to preview. I have 2 questions for us from the Patreon. We've only got 8 questions on the Patreon, folks. Submit your questions. A lot of people leaving their $2 whole on the table by not asking their questions.
Yeah,
so
we don't refund your money if you fail to ask a question. That's not how this works. So
if you would like to ask us a question, please do so. There is a post on the Patreon, and you write a question as a comment to that post, and we read them on the show. And that's your perk for supporting us financially and emotionally. So please do that if you feel inclined and are capable of. If not, don't worry. You still get the full product for free. You can join the Discord for free as well, which is always fun. Good conversations happening there. Some of these questions require more time and more thought, which is why I'm not going to dive into a lot of these right now. But we have one here from Andrew Printovic. This is a great one. Rank in order of what you would like to know the most. What Noonan said to get suspended? What did GB actually bite that guy? See the Miazga hallway tape? And what song Ron Jans was singing, or any other great unknowns in FC Cincinnati history? Where are we ranking these items?
Ron Jans is number 1.
I think so too.
Like far and away. Someone out there has the knowledge of what song Ron Jans was singing karaoke to.
I've been told there is video of said incident. I need it.
Oh my God, that would be.
I need it.
DMs open all day, every day.
I think that's number 1. Miazga then moves to number 2. Any disagreements with Miazga is number 2.
So I actually tweeted a list like 4 days ago.
Oh, perfect.
of things. And I had the Miazga video number 1. the Jan's karaoke video number 2.
Okay.
The Bupenza bar video number 3.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
4, this is outside the scope of FC Cincinnati, but it's every team's GAM TAM salary budget sheets. And then 5th, I had the secret website relating to the West End Stadium deal.
That's a throwback.
Where would we put Tommy Heineman's medical records on this list?
It's up there. Not FCC, but a great MLS unknown, couple of unknowns. I would love to know what Bruce Arena did or allegedly did in New England. That knowing what the accusation was, the nature of the accusation would go a long way to changing or setting how I would feel about that.
What were the other things that he suggested besides Miazga and Ron Jans?
Oh, it was did GB actually bite that guy? So we'll say
I don't want to know. I want to hear everybody's answers. I don't want to definitively know.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the reason to be, I want the mystery there.
Yeah.
I think the reason why that's last is I think we already know.
Every person that we have interacted with that would in some way, shape, or form have knowledge of the incident, including a conversation via a source with Niall McCabe, the alleged victim of the incident, I'll say it happened.
Yeah.
Nobody has said it didn't happen.
And I know
Mike Watts told us that there would be a sign that he would answer this question. There was, and the answer was yes.
Yeah, he gave us the sign. The other item was, and I thought this was funny. It wouldn't have made my list, but it's really funny, and I do want to know, what did Noonan say to the referee to get the multiple game suspension? Like, what was the chain of words that got him suspended?
We don't
really care.
We don't have.
I think
we had audio. We had a lip reader do the last time he got suspended back in 2022. I want to say.
Did we?
Yeah, there was a video that went around where somebody like lip read where he called them. That's the most unfucking professional thing I've ever seen in my life. When he went after the refs after the NYCFC game.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I would probably that would be my ranking. I would have GB at the bottom, and I'd put Noonan slightly above that. I do want to know what was in Tommy Heineman's medical records, though.
I want to know what Bruce said.
Yeah.
Above everything that we listed, except for the Miazga tape and the Ron Jans karaoke song.
Yeah. Another great MLS mystery from this season, Chicho Arango anti-harassment policy. Please expand upon that, Major League Soccer.
I'll put that below Bruce, but yeah, there should be an answer on that.
Right.
Also, do you remember that there was like 3 weeks where Cucho Hernandez just didn't play for Columbus?
Yeah. It was a private matter and we settled it. And Nancy was furious. People kept asking, hey, man, if you want that gig in the Premier League, you can't do that shit. People will kill you. Like,
yeah,
you can't suspend the star player of the team and think it's offensive. Somebody might ask about it.
You know what else I want to know? I want to know when MLS changed the rule that if you sit out the All-Star game with an injury, that when did they change it so that you're not suspended the first game afterward?
I bet there's a handful of star players that have been suspended. That would also be curious to know when that was changed for other players and not them.
And was that communicated before Lucho played hurt in the All-Star game?
Played 45 minutes hurt. Could have cost us, 3-4 points over the course of the season. I'm happy to claim that. Maybe we still have a supporter shield race if he does not have to play in the All-Star game.
Maybe we still have a supporter shield race if Suarez isn't available for that Inter Miami game.
Damn. We beat him 6-1 last time we played without him. All right, and finally, Damon Gumbert asks, what happened in Cincinnati's history that makes being a sports fan here so fucking painful?
Harambe.
It's one of those things where it's like a fixed point in time. So if you change it, both affects things that happened after it and before it.
Right. He's our universe's anchor being.
Yeah.
If you've seen Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes.
Yeah, what was it?
I mean, Harambe's a good point, but really it's like the last Boomer Esiason Super Bowl or the Reds 1990 World Series when it's after that, it all goes to hell.
Marge Schott, like casually dropping racial slurs everywhere and nobody seeming to want to do anything about it.
It's Marge Schott. It's the curse of Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson's a good choice too.
Pulling his leg out of his hip socket didn't bode well for the city.
Like when did it really go wrong in Cincinnati sports? Because like, the Reds win in 90. The Bengals' last Super Bowl appearance was in 89, so it has to have happened after
the Pete Rose gambling scandal. So what we should have done is we should have, after that came out, instead of rallying to Pete's defense and rallying to his defense for decades, we should have Wickermanned him.
A human sacrifice for the sins of the city. Yeah.
It's not unrelated to the way that like Trump skates by but is constantly ruining the lives of the people who have attached themselves to him. Yeah. Like so many of those people are like, you know, having their careers ruined or letting their faces decay or going to prison. I really think we needed to immolate
Pete Rose. Yeah. Because it's not like Pete has gotten better with age.
No, he's aged quite poorly.
He's
aged
quite
like a
the
natural
opposite.
wine.
Yeah. He has only lost supporters. He has not gained any supporters along the way.
He's not a natural wine. He's raw milk.
It wasn't worth it.
Right.
No.
Like it was a bad call.
And it's a good point because, you know, he has one of the greatest records in baseball. He is, you know, our like
I've got it. Is his number still retired for the Cincinnati Cyclones?
Yes, it is. It sure
that
is.
That banner needs to come down and get burned. That's what it is right there. It's that we are still honoring him in the rafters of one of our buildings, even for a minor league team. That number needs to come down and get burned, and the Reds need to issue 14 to someone next year.
Can we
need to execute? The Reds need to excommunicate him, like issue a fatwa.
He loses an eye.
No, it needs to be like in the John Wick series where someone comes in very stern looking. Excommunicado.
we turn in his coin.
It was 1989.
I mean, there's a World Series there, but yeah, that's pretty devastating.
No, it's like it's devastating that we can the continued embrace of Pete Rose. When was Norbert Nadel's decision? Was that in 89 too? Because that might be where he tries to insert himself into the Pete Rose case locally to issue an injunction to block the investigation and suspension.
I don't know, but our sin also was not just Pete doing it. It was again not
us defending him.
Not sacrificing him.
Yeah,
when he did it. So that there's a little bit of hangover, right? Effect from when that kicks in.
This is what we do. We gotta cancel Pete Rose. It should be pretty easy. But
Pete Rose, you are canceled.
We cancel. But what I'm saying is we have to apply the public pressure to the Cyclones to not be supporting a non-Cyclones player who's been canceled.
I haven't been to a Cyclones game in like a decade. I don't know if that jersey's still up in the rafters.
It still is. As of last year, it's still there.
Okay. Yeah. I know that was like Wildman Walker's big thing was like, we're going to honor Pete here because, you know, yeah, sure.
We're good now.
Yeah. Never take life advice from a guy that lived on a billboard for a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
Just good in general.
Okay, that's going to have to do it for the Patreon questions. Like I said, we just got through too large of a chunk of them right there. So please ask your questions, even if it's just, how are you doing? You know, I get to read your name out here, and it feels like there's more people that listen to this. Look, there's 12 listeners. There's 8 questions. I need at least 4 more.
Ain't mathin'.
I need at least 4 more here.
So wait, before we move to part 3, there is a breaking, I'll say breaking news item that I want to address. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but Laurel Pfahler just tweeted.
Uh-oh.
I know there is no use comparing MLS with the NFL in any regard, but I've just got to point out the difference of what a pull report inquiry with officials look like in both leagues.
Oh,
Two most recent examples for the NFL and MLS teams I cover. And she attached screenshots from the question and answer with the referee of the Bengals Chiefs game and the question and answer of the pull reporter questions with the referee from the Montreal game. We talked about the Montreal game.
yeah.
And how they basically just said, his foul was reckless. His foul was off the ball. He had no opportunity to play the ball. Just the first question. What was your of the NFL ref?
Yeah.
What was your interpretation, or just walk me through why Jamar Chase was whistled for unsportsmanlike conduct? Kemp, the referee. It's pretty clear cut. It's just simply abusive language towards a game official. That's all it was. And there was really no interpretation. I'm not going to repeat to you what he said, but there was no interpretation with the language that he used, just abusive language. Question. As an official, how do you decide at what point a player crosses the line and it goes from being just pure dissent to abusive towards an official? Kemp. The simple answer is profanity used by grown men versus direct, personal, abusive language toward a game official. That's the line. When that line gets crossed, we simply can't let that happen in pro football. Question, are you able to say what he was upset about? Kemp. He was questioning the tackle. He thought he was hip drop tackled on the previous play. And so he came to me wondering about a hip drop tackle. That was the beginning line of questioning. In hindsight, did you guys feel like the appropriate call on the hip drop was made? Was that explanation you gave to him at the time? Kemp, we informed him that we did not feel it was a hip drop tackle. So there's much more, it's much more interactive, and he provides more detail, and there's a give and take, right? There's follow-ups that pertain to the question, and then he provides responses that, relate to the subject matter of the question. He just doesn't regurgitate
the rule book. Yeah.
Like a snippet from the rule back at the reporters.
That's hot take. If the Bengals would have paid Jamar Chase, he wouldn't have lost his mind at being hip drop tackled, because now he's hyper vigilant about anything that could cost him his bag while he's playing with no contract extension.
Well, that and just temperament and mood generally. He's probably a little more on edge. He's probably not a fun guy to be around right now. So
also, that pass interference call was bogus. I'm not even a Bengals fan, and that was bogus as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Can't keep it close enough to let the referees make the decisions.
Baker Mayfield 2-0. Bam.
Look, I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan, so I would love to see.
He brings misery to all the right people, and that makes me very happy.
All right, let's get on over to part 3.
NFL referees, by the way, do not make that much more than pro referees.
Which is shocking, considering how much money is on the line with every call and decision that an NFL referee makes versus an MLS official.
It's certainly not that much more in proportion to
the scrutiny,
the difficulty of the job, and the way they carry it themselves, and the accessibility that's expected with the media. Anyway.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let's get on over to part 3. We'll talk about Minnesota on Wednesday, and we'll wrap this episode up. And we're back. Gentlemen, there's a game on Wednesday, which we haven't really discussed how is going to impact our recording schedule. This feels like a Thursday recording in a Friday release, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. That's how far in advance the post is planned out, folks. This is live on the air.
Well, it's not just a Wednesday game; it's a Wednesday game at Central Time.
Yeah.
So it's an 8:30 start instead of a 7:30 start, which is a big difference.
That's rough.
Huge.
So, some of us have an office to be into the next morning. Okay.
Yeah. And if you don't want us to be in an office and you want this to be our primary focus, DMs are open for sponsorship opportunities. There is a number that causes me to walk away from my career.
Oh, and FCC to clinch the playoffs as well.
Hey, look at that.
There we go. It's a playoff party in the 513.
Did they also set off fireworks at Scudamore Field?
I don't know.
No, it's just one dude with a sparkler, I think.
Minnesota United on Wednesday. I don't know much about them. I'll be perfectly honest.
They're not good, and
they started well this year and then faded off immediately.
Yeah. On 39 points, they're currently in the 9th seed position. That is good for a play-in game versus the Portland Timbers. If the playoffs were to start this Wednesday, they have a +1 goal differential on the season, which is in the positive.
They had a Bupenza kind of situation.
They did.
But it would have been like if our Bupenza situation was with Lucho.
And if it went on for like 2 years.
There is that.
Reynoso, what was really funny is when Bupenza's contract was voided, all of the Minnesota fans coming out of the woodwork like, whoa, you can do that? Like, we had this guy literally go missing for 6 months at a time for 2 years. He would pop up every once in a while with like grainy photos of him holding stacks of cash and somebody next to him with a gun. And it's like, yeah, all right, that's cool. He's doing fine. I think the difference there was Reynoso still had some sort of resale value. He was eventually sold to Xolos in Liga MX.
I think so.
Whereas Bupenza signed for 2 teams within the same day. If you check the the press releases, this is maybe another news item that could have been there. It was announced that he signed for Zamalek in Egypt, and 24 hours later he pops up in Romania.
Yep, at Dinamo Bucharest, I think.
Yeah,
and with the team in Egypt saying they will pursue all legal action, which is. Good luck with that.
Wait, did they really say that?
Or something like that, that they said that he is our player and that they had things legally set up or something like that. Yeah, like they're furious. Like he's a funny guy. Bupenza is a funny guy.
Man gets around.
Rapid Bucharest. Sorry.
Rapid Bucharest. Okay.
Colorado Rapid Bucharest.
He's still MLS in his heart. So I think for this one, in terms of
Minnesota's they're on a heater. 2 games they've won in a row.
Okay.
Scored 3 against St. Louis this past weekend, yesterday on Saturday. Beat San Jose, but who doesn't? So yeah, no, they this is by no means a cakewalk, I don't think, for us playing on the road. We have not fared well in Minnesota. We've looked bad there occasionally. This was also I think the only match we've ever won in stoppage time.
Yes.
Other than Lucho, Lucho's this year against Philly was a stoppage time one, wasn't it?
It was.
Okay. The only other one besides that was Brandon Vasquez scoring, I think, in a stoppage time winner in Minnesota. But we've also lost it 15-1 one time, I think.
7-1. And Grayson was absolutely there. I'll speak for him. I think we might have finally lost Grayson to the vid.
The illness has finally succumbed.
Yeah, I'm bowing out, but I'm going 2-0 to the FC.
There
Perfect.
We go.
Okay, love that. Yeah, Minnesota, 3 wins, 1 draw, and 1 win to the FC overall. And this is a fun trivia question. 2018, who knocked us out of the Open Cup? That was Minnesota United back then on penalties. I'll never forget Kenny Walker missing the first penalty. I was like, well, this probably isn't going to go well. Yeah, so from an FCC perspective, though, because I don't know too much about Minnesota, I think that this is a game where I hope there is more emphasis put on the offense. A game against a Western Conference opponent is always a nice bonus points game, because if you gain points here, it's great because they can't come from anywhere else. If you don't pick up points here, obviously it's a disappointment, but you're not improving the seeding or the standing of a conference opponent. So I'd like to see them go for it offensively. I think that means Assad starts at left wing back. I'd like to see Kubo Kelsey up top, and probably the debut of one teenage Hadibi. Chief, what are you looking forward in this one?
Got to score some goals.
Yeah.
This is, like I said, we need to see Lucho armed and operational in this match. We need to see the offense looking like it's goal dangerous. We need to see chances being created, goals being scored. They should have as close as they possibly can to having their first choice lineup for the remainder of the year available in this match. A lot of rest for Miles and Ian. So you would think that the back line will be Miles, Ian, and Chidozie with Teenage available for a second half substitution. I would imagine that's usually the pattern that Noonan tends to like. Because by the time this happened, Teenage will have only been training with the team for less than a week.
Yeah.
So it feels a little soon. And I think that I don't know, we'll see. I think he'll be splitting minutes with Ian. I don't think there's going to be a clear-cut starter between the two of them. In terms of the attack, yeah, Kubo and Kelsey need to be the pairing. And I understand that there's this desire to have Kubo available in the midfield, but with Emil Assad back to play on the wing back, I think you start Assad. I think you put Orishano out on the field, out wide on the other side, and just go to town.
Yeah. It becomes interesting, or at the very least, Yedlin and Orishano as your wing backs. Can't go wrong. Like this is fun.
Yeah. I mean, Yedlin, everybody's healthy now.
Yeah.
The only question will be, they say Lucho is fully fit. Do they really mean that? And would this be an opportunity to potentially get him some rest? I don't think you're getting him out of the lineup. I think that he will walk onto the field and grab the armband before he gets taken off again at this point.
But a Dado halftime substitution feels very possible if FC is up 1-0, let's say, in the first half.
Yeah.
So
they should win.
Yeah.
This is a game that if this is where no more excuses moments. This is the team needs to start getting itself right for the playoffs. And that means figuring some shit out. And figuring some shit out means that you win games like this.
Yeah, you gotta win these next two. I believe 2 wins and we guarantee a top 3 Eastern Conference finish. Or at the very least a top 4 Eastern Conference finish. So you got Minnesota, then Nashville on Saturday. I can see some rotation looking ahead to, 2 away games in a couple of days. This is always tough to play 3 games in a week or 2 games in a week, however you want to look at it. You have a week off before LAFC comes to town on the 28th. God, that puts us halfway through the remaining games on this season. But yeah, I don't know. There probably could be a little more rotation, especially with the substitutes. I'd expect early subs. I'd expect all 5 subs being used in this one, regardless of who starts. So yeah. With that, Chief, I don't see any reason to draw this out any longer than we have to. What are the predictions over there?
2-1 FC?
Yeah. That feels right.
2-1 FC?
I will go 3-1 just because if I'm not optimistic, I don't know who will be. So
right. 2-1 or 2-2.
Yeah.
So that feels right. I think that there's a draw here wouldn't surprise me. Just because I think they're still rounding into form a little bit with whatever they've got. But, they masterclass from Pat Noonan, perfectly executed game plan this past weekend. Fuck it. Let's go for 2.
Love it. I love it. And there you go. Chief, hell is real in the rear view.
We're done.
Good episode. Good episode.
All gas, no brakes for the rest of the season. You ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Happy Hell is Real weekend, everyone. Fuck Columbus.
thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. Also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to the show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.